Welcome back, Sparklers, to another episode of Ignite Your Spark. I'm your host, Kim Duff Selby. Thank you for tuning in or watching whatever you're doing, because I know you have a gajillion podcasts that you can listen to or YouTube videos. And I thank you for choosing mine. You were divinely guided here, and you will get what you need out of it. Today, my guest is Vincent Genna, who is a psychic therapist and medium. He is a former actor. We know I love that. Has worked as a hospice clinical social worker, had a spiritual awakening at the age of 28, and has more than 39 years of training, research, and experience in the metaphysical, psychological, and spiritual fields. His gift is to dive deep into your psyche to release unconscious blockages, resistances, and self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors so you and me and all of us can fulfill the life of our dreams. Now, he also offers us the opportunity to learn from him in his first book, The Secret That's Holding You Back. Welcome, Vincent.
Oh my gosh, that was so wonderful. I love that. I'm going to have to play that over and over again and write it down. That was fabulous. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for inviting me here.
I am delighted to have you. And I don't want to only talk about your book, but reading your book gave me an insight as to who you are and how you work. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And before we begin all of the yummy things that we get to talk about, I'm going to ask you a question.
Go
On
ahead.
a day when you wake up and you're like, how do you ignite your spark?
Oh, what a great question. Okay, so now I have to think about those days. I have to tell you this, Kim, in being truthful, there is truly now rarely a day that the spark isn't already lit. And I'll tell you why. All right, I'll share. I don't mind. I'm 67 years old. I've hidden it under my hat. Okay, so there, you'd be able to see it there. I'm 67. I just turned 67 April 1st. I have worked since I was 28 years old on creating that spark and getting everything out of the way that stops the spark or blows the spark out. And I'm at a point in my life where every day is great for me. Now, of course, I'll say that there are some days that are even better than others, but I've got a wife that we've been married 44 years, been together 49 years, joyously every single year. I've got two absolutely incredible children, both of whom are married. Our son, who is the oldest, has 3 beautiful grandchildren. My daughter is pregnant with her first.
Oh.
I get to do the work that fulfills my life because of all the work I did to get here, to believe in myself, to love myself. And the funny thing is, Kim, when you do that work, you'll find that that spark sometimes may dim, like if I'm sick. Maybe if I'm sick, and quite honestly, I with all the protection that we've been doing for the coronavirus for the past 2 years, I haven't even had a cold. I mean, the mask, the vaccinations, the staying 6 feet away from people, it's been amazing. I've been so well. Even I'll tell you this, I'll share this, okay, talk about spark. In 2017, I had a heart attack. And I was walking around with it. The only reason why I went to the doctor is because I wound up having one more pain that wouldn't go away. And I said, okay, honey, listen, call 911. I walked into the ambulance. Basically, they took me to the hospital. I had a 99% blockage off my widowmaker. The doctor said I should be dead. But when they went in there, they saw that my heart wasn't damaged at all. It beats and pumps out more blood than most people. And I'm telling you right now, that's because of all the work that I did. and that spark doesn't ever go out on me. It may get a little brighter, it may get a little dimmer, but there's rarely anything I have to do anymore to get it going. I do constantly remind myself how magnificent and divine and wonderful I am and how enough I am. And that's what feeds the spark. But that is the abridged version of your answer, okay? An answer to your question. That's the short one. I can actually go longer.
Well, it'll come out in more of this, but
Yes,
that's
it
my
will.
favorite. That's my favorite answer ever, because what you said at the end, and I'm going to reflect on that, is because you've done the work on yourself, you are able to live your spark, your life as a sparkling human every day.
Yeah.
And the other thing you said is self-love, and that runs rampant through the book as well, is self-love is critical. It's critical, and I know that, and we all know that intellectually, but it's very challenging
Yeah, how
to.
many books are out there that talk about right from the beginning? Oh yeah, you love yourself, you're supposed to love yourself, but they gloss over it as if it's an automatic understanding and as if everybody is doing it. And Kim, you and I know that's not the truth. That's actually the issue.
Right. And that brings me to what you talk about in your book, the EMM and the AMM. And that is why we are not capable in many cases of self-love. So what, I don't know, I just felt like we should discuss those two acronyms or, initial things.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
that runs throughout your book, and it's very vital that people understand, even though they might know. So talk to us a little bit about what the EMM and the AMM are, and perhaps then you can go into how that's holding us back.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, I have my bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's in clinical social work. It was very important to me that when this happened to me and I became very psychic and I was diving deep into people's psyche, I wanted to truly understand the human mind as best as I could. So I went back to school purposely as an adult for 7 years in order to gain that true understanding. So the typical mind that we see or we've always heard about is the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. Carl Jung actually added to that unconscious part as calling it the superconscious mind, because he kind of believed that that's where the soul resides, the soul's mind resides. So you've got those three layers. Now, the bottom layer, that unconscious part where the soul's mind is, we come in from the other side. That's a very positive holding area. So all our wisdom and our knowledge is kind of like hidden in there and gathered in there or connected in there through any other source that you can imagine. Excuse me. Well, when we come into this planet and we start having our experiences and we start receiving different messages and we get a whole bunch of negative messages from our environment, our brain is such that it will do whatever it needs to protect itself. I mean, the two highest functions of the brain is one, to keep us alive, and two, to protect us in order to keep us alive, Kim. So it will compartmentalize. So it doesn't want to mix up the good feelings of self with the bad feelings of self. So it will divide itself and hold another compartment. We use the pyramid to show it because there's a smaller amount, only 2 to 5% is in conscious awareness, 95 to 98% is in unconscious awareness. That's why the pyramid, whatever it looks like, it doesn't matter. And whether they're compartments or not, that doesn't matter either. What does matter is the separation between the two. So I believe that we need to label and understand that there is that fourth section that I call the environment-made mind, thus the EMM, the environment-made mind. Why that? Because when you're young, you're not responsible for creating your own beliefs. They are formed, you're a sponge, you absorb everything. They're formed from the messages that you receive from your environment. So usually what's harbored in that mind is what I call the I'm nots. I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not deserving, I'm not smart enough. All of those messages you get as you're growing up that are negative, okay? Now, as you get older and you start to develop your mind, and your mind develops with age, I said that your brain needs to protect you. Well, it protects you from your emotional pain just the same way as it protects us physically. So again, another section of the mind, I believe, is created that now harbors all your defense mechanisms, those famous ones that Sigmund Freud came up with 10, including suppression, repression, denial, sublimination, all of that. And that's where I believe that there is a layer between now the environmental made mind, which is on top of your soul's mind, unconscious mind, but closer to your conscious mind, and the subconscious mind is in between. So you've got that adult made mind now that is creating for you defense mechanisms to shield and protect you from those painful environment-made mind beliefs. So that is the layer, and that's what the EMM and the AMM stand for, so that I can have people visualize. When you get that visualization, it helps you to understand better. People call it all different things today, mindset. Eckhart Tolle called it hidden beliefs. I want to get to really break it down for people, because it's the one thing I understood when I was taking my classes. The clearer you make it for somebody to understand, the easier it is for them to work on the problem and the issue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you make it
Right?
very easy in the book. And what's interesting is, and I've interviewed other people about how we are brought up, how critical our first experience and exposure to life and love is. Now, it's so interesting. And I hate to always talk about myself when doing this, but as an example.
Oh, please do.
Oh, yeah. And people know this if they're regular listeners. I was adopted, but I found out I was adopted at the age of 22.
Ooh.
So very different. I was brought into a family because I was chosen. They wanted me, they loved me, they provided me with everything a child could want: the best education, great beliefs in spirituality and in giving back to the community, everything. So that way I was lifted up in self-love. However, even me, who is very positive, I go to school and that's where I got all of those. Oh, you're skinny, you have freckles, you have frizzy hair, boys don't like you, you have buck teeth, you have this, you have that. Well, that is, no matter how you're brought up, you can't escape external negative bias or whatever it is. You cannot escape it. So every single person has to work on that self-love. Now, some of us were born, I was very, very fortunate to be born with my spark lit and pretty much lit and able to ignite it just because of the way I was born, because circumstances, push you down. But the way you said it really brought it home to me. The environment made mind. That is what is coming into us. Now, when does that adult made mind come in? So when I find out I'm adopted at the age of 22, does that mind kick in and start protecting me about?
It was kicking in before that, Kim. It starts at a young age with as many little excuses as you can come up with and defense mechanisms, the way kids start acting. For example, a child who is abused at home or beaten by a father, maybe there's an alcohol or substance abuse issue, and the child gets beaten. Now that child becomes a bully. Well, in actuality, that was part of the adult-made mind that started creating defenses that told him, well, if there's other people that are worse than you and weaker than you, and that you can push them around and you're not bad, they're bad. And that undeveloped mind was just creating such an immature defense mechanism, but enough that caused him to become a bully. Okay, so you've got to understand that it starts very early, but the more mature the mind becomes, the more advanced the defense mechanisms become, which is why you get people today that they're not blaming themselves for not being good enough because their environment-made mind is all the way down there, and your adult-made mind is supposed to suppress those feelings. it creates the belief, oh, wait a minute, I know the reason why I didn't get that job. It's because my boss is an idiot. That's why this is terrible. Oh, I know why my relationships keep breaking apart, because there's so many jerks in the world. I mean, I can't help but choose a jerk. And on and on and on and on with the excuses. It's the economy. It's my neighbor. It's my family. It's this person. It's that person. But anything except it's me. And we don't want to go there. And so what gets in our way, you asked earlier, is how those minds get in the way. Well, we are spiritual beings. And the interesting thing about the sparks, they have to come from somewhere. And that spark comes from a higher power energy that instilled that spark in us upon creation. That's a natural spark. So it's like, it's not that you even have to make one up or try to stick one in. What you need to do is bring it out. Okay, right? I'm sure you'll agree with that. So now we're these beings, and now we're plugged into power. So what winds up happening is everybody thinks, because there's certainly a number of books about the law of attraction out there. We can't even count them anymore. Once one came out in the New Age and the New Thought movement, the law of attraction is like one of the most powerful books out there, right? On understanding. But what people don't understand is where they're connected to the law of attraction. You're not connected to that power in your conscious mind, which only accounts for 2 to 5% of the entire mind. No, if you think about that for a moment, think about this, Kim. If we were connected to our power from just our thoughts alone, instant thoughts, we would instantaneously be creating things that we think of. There'd be no leeway at all. So can you imagine you're growing up and how many times you had a fight with your brother and your sister and you went, oh, drop dead. And boom, oh my God, mom is going to kill me now. I just killed my brother. Oh my God, she was so mad when I broke the lamp. Can you imagine what she's going to say now? You know, half the world would be dead. The other half would be billionaires just from winning the lottery all the time because it's thoughts, right? So It can't be there. Where is it then? It's plugged into our unconscious mind. And the thing right next to your unconscious mind is what? The EMM, the environment-made mind, with all those maladaptive beliefs. So when you're trying to attract a partner in your life or get a raise or create a positive circumstance and fulfill a dream, but the little you inside there is saying, but you're not good enough, you're not lovable, that's the energy that's going out into the law of attraction, and why people manifest so much of what they don't want rather than what they do want, because the unconscious part is fulfilling them and creating the attraction. When I studied psychology, you really get to understand that in the first portion of your life, you've created, or the environment has created, your first set of self-beliefs. Well, believe it or not, because of the way the world has gone, and because, like you said, everybody has a story today, because there's been so many. And you know what? If you and I even talked a bit, we probably break down some things that, even though your lovable parents did everything they could to raise you in a lovable way, there's probably some things in there, besides the school kids, that affected you, even just by the idea alone that you were adopted. You know, the little kid inside, that you may not be thinking this, but where's my original parents? Why did they give me up? People think that all the time. What is this? Why is that? Why did mommy not give me another cookie? What's the problem? I like cookies. You know, whatever the case may be, children form these stories. And because that we've not been nurtured into believing that we're magnificent beings and that we can do anything that we want, we're truly not nurtured that way. The problem keeps getting passed down from generation to generation to generation. So it's a perpetual problem, and everybody forgets where they need to go in order to solve that problem, which is deep down inside. And so they're not creating what they want. They're not fulfilling their dreams. That's why I wrote this book, because it was so important and vital. Even if they follow some of the good books today, they're doing it with their upper conscious minds, and it only gets as far as the adult made mind. And that's a fake mind with all those fake beliefs in it anyway. So nothing gets processed because that's not what they're really believing. Most people don't believe what they think they believe, Kim.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, now we get that. Are you going to give us a little taste of the secret?
No.
How we
No, you got to buy the book.
exactly. I don't want you to give away the farm, but I do want to. I mean, we have to entice people a little bit. And
Well, of course.
I
Well,
happen to
well-
know, and I just reread that part, and it's sounds simple, a lot harder to do than you think it is. But, and not like the whole thing, but
No, of course.
there's a little hope.
You have to, well, the secret that's holding you back is what we just explained, okay? But then there are ways of now working with it. And it's interesting. It's the hardest thing, the hardest job I have. I work with clients every single day. I do readings, but the reason why I call myself a psychic therapist is because first I had my psychotherapy degree and practice, and I combine that with my psychic ability. So guess what? I'm both psychic and psycho.
But it's funny, for
Therapist.
years, I always thought how great it would be to have a psychic therapist. And
There
here
we go.
you
And
are.
that's it. I'm
Here
telling you
are.
right now, it was so funny because while I was going to school and I had supervisors that were watching over the work that I did, they go, wow, Vince, you really have a sixth sense. You're able to diagnose somebody within 5 minutes of meeting them so accurately. And it's supposed to take about a week. And I'd be going, oh, yeah, I know, because I didn't tell everybody that I was using my
Right.
psychic ability to do
Right.
that. But the one thing that we learned is we can't get people to come to therapy and counseling, which the majority of the world could use. And look, right now, nobody is going to tell me, look, my spark is up and I don't, and I know how not to have anybody dim it or circumstances of life dim it. But that doesn't mean that I don't get upset with what's going on in the world today. All right. That doesn't dim my spark. But a lot of other people, it does. It affects them. There's unbelievable stuff happening in the world. And if it's not people killing people and dropping bombs on countries and innocent people, it's storms, it's tornadoes, it's hurricanes, it's tidal waves, it's earthquakes, fires, unbelievable things that are happening around us, crisis after crisis after crisis. Everybody could afford to go to counseling. But one of the major reasons why they don't, Kim, and this is the funny part, because most people are afraid to find out that what is in their EMM, those negative self-beliefs, are true. That's what they're afraid to find out. They know that there is a level of those beliefs in there, but they forgot that there is a level beneath that where the soul is, where the soul's mind that's connected to everything and the higher force that's telling you you're divine, you're magnificent. They have completely forgotten that. They've done so well at hiding those I'm nots that they are afraid. So they are afraid to release their defense mechanisms. So the first part of the secret is you have got to face and disempower your defense mechanism and not be afraid to. Not be afraid to. And disempowering it is the easy part. Like I say in my book, the process is easy. The practice is difficult to do it all the time. But you've got to disempower that defense mechanism and be brave and strong enough to see what you're really believing about yourself. And you can. Nothing is hidden so deeply that you cannot bring it to the surface, Kim.
Is this what you do when you work with clients one-on-one? Is you work with them to help them uncover those?
Well, okay.
beliefs.
If I was doing psychotherapy, that's what I would be doing. And that's what I did do. And that's why it takes years.
Yeah.
Because as a psychotherapist, you're not giving them the answers. You're waiting for them to uncover their problems. As a
Right.
psychic, within the first 10 minutes of you calling me, I've laid out all your problems.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, you are, as your
Dive right in
Right.
there. You know, I put my
Yeah.
gloves on, I warm them up, I warm me up, and I let them know, you know, I give them some humorous things so that they can smile. Because the interesting thing is Mary Poppins had it right. A teaspoon of sugar helps the medicine go down. I've
Yep.
got to give most people a gallon of honey, okay? Because they've got so much baggage in there. Some people, I don't even know how they're even on the phone with me, how they even had the energy to make an appointment, because their lives are so tragic. And then there's others that it's not so difficult, you know? But for the most part, I dive in there and bring right to the surface what's going on with them, and then let them see it. So a lot of times, and what most of my work is about, is bursting their bubble and getting through their defense mechanism to let them lay it, because they have to let it down. The funny thing is, I come from New York, and regionalism.
in case anybody couldn't tell.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't. I got rid of my accent, y'all. I'm living down here in North Carolina in the South, y'all.
Yeah,
So
I'm going to
you
say
should-
it's still there a little bit.
Yeah, is it? Oh, well, I thought it was because I'm using my hands a lot. No, that's Italian. Okay, never mind. That's because I'm Italian. So it's funny because where you come from in the world actually adds to your coping mechanisms. Your culture adds to your coping mechanisms, and you can see them. And it's very interesting because you can go to different parts of even our country and see how people act and respond. And it's really because of their environment that they develop that personality and that style, okay? So New Yorkers have a reputation of being really stubborn. Really stubborn, okay? So I'm dealing with, let's say, a woman who's called me up. Many women call me up, and men as well. I've got 50-50 in clientele, 50% men, 50% women, which is unheard of for a psychic medium. So I'm very proud of that. Done a lot of work to do that. So I'll get the woman on the phone, and her question inevitably is about relationship. And it's like, when am I going to finally get a partner? And we're going on, and I'm seeing right away her story, her past, her childhood. And I'm going, wow, this girl doesn't believe she's lovable. Wow. And I go through this and that. And I'll be reflecting things back to them. Well, this is what I see. I see when you were young. Yeah, I know, but I worked on that. And I really do believe I deserve some. And I know that that's not what they're believing. Yes, I do. I've spent a lot of years on myself. I know I deserve. No, I really do. And then I'll be telling them, well, right now you don't want a partner, which is why you're not seeing a partner. I think, yes, I do want a partner. And so I have to get, and I'm like, okay, the padded boxing gloves aren't going to work. I got to take them off now. And we got to get down in the dirt with this one. Okay, listen to me. Let's dive in there deeper. And I don't give up. Because I think that's the reason why I chose to be born New York Italian, obstinate, and very intense and passionate, is so that I can help the hardest person. And I do, and I get them, and the universe brings them to me because it knows that I can deal with them. And so I will bring them to a level. I don't want to say I break them, but I will help them release their defense mechanisms. And then all of a sudden they see, wow, I never thought of that. I never thought of that. I said, I know you never thought of that. That's the whole reason. In the meantime, you're finding the blame. You're feeling bad about yourself that you can't find a relationship, and it's compounding that feeling below. Every time a relationship breaks up, you're saying to yourself, or the little kid inside of you is saying, see, I told you you're not lovable. I told you you're not lovable. And you keep compounding that and compounding that. And then your anger and resentment and defense mechanisms get stronger and harder, so that you're blaming the world and life and everything else, when in fact you're actually blaming yourself. that much more. And so they become, open, when you show them compassion and love, they open up more.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then they ask, well, what do I need to do to break it? And it's like, ooh, first thing, move out of New York. Okay. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to move out of New York. I love New York. I was born and raised there. And my family, I still have family there. So, but I tell them you've got to do this work. And I show them the work, of course, and we go into it. But it's so hard pressed. And down here in North Carolina, it's the opposite. Everybody paints a pretty picture for themselves and they're pretty family. This is the antebellum South. And during the Civil War, it was very important that appearance was maintained as strong, be it the men, be it the women. Even prior to that, think about how the women dressed down here in the South, right?
Oh, yeah.
They wore those corsets, they pushed up their bosoms, and then they had these gorgeous hoop skirts. Who created that? The men. The men liked thin-waisted women and busty, and they liked everything else hidden. They weren't into the butts here. They were into the breasts and the thin waist. And so the women designed their clothes accordingly. So appearance was very important. The pageant woman, smile all the time, be happy. Now there's civil war. Don't give in. The Scarlett O'Hara iconic figure down here is absolutely true because they had to in order to survive. These women couldn't show weakness because if there was Northern renegades coming in, they would take advantage of the women and also hurt them, kill them. So they had to stay strong. So because of that, that was passed down, that appearance was passed down in the way they were raised. There could be unbelievable conflict within the family, but on the outside, they have a saying here called, oh, bless your heart.
Bless your heart. I was just going to say that. I know. Oh, bless her heart.
And you know damn well what that means. That's the New York term. What are you kidding me?
Exactly. No, I was
just other adjectives in there.
I was just thinking that.
Right.
Before we get to a point where we, stop, I would like to hear your use, because people can figure out the rest of it by reading your book or going, attending a class or something, because it is really interesting and I need to work on myself. I really do. We all do. There's things holding us back. I get it. Holding me back from that, manifesting that, first class travel. Anyway, how did you, I think it's kind of interesting. Well, I'm interested in how you had your spiritual awakening. I know your childhood was rough and you suffered through a lot of trauma and abuse.
When I look at it, Kim, that it's always hard for me to talk about it because it wells me up, because it was such a blessing at the same time that it was painful that caused it. The gentleman that caused the greatest torment in my childhood in school wound up becoming a very dear friend of mine after our 10-year high school reunion. I was completely tormented in school until I was 17 years old, and abused, chased, beat up every single day, all of that stuff. And then at home, it wasn't any better. So this kid antagonized me the most and caused the most pain. So he was basically my enemy when I was in school, all the way from 4th grade when I moved to Long Island, all the way until I graduated high school. Well, I was in the movie Grease as a singer, actor, and dancer because the first part of my life, I was a professional singer, actor, and dancer. And so that's what I thought I was going to be doing my entire life, okay? And the movie Grease had been such a smash hit that only a couple of years after that was my first high school reunion, my 10-year high school reunion. And I was going to go. I was going. My wife and I, we already had a son, 2.5 years old. I was feeling good about myself, and I was going to go in with a big giant chip on my shoulder. Actually, it was a 2x4, not just a chip. Because I was going to show them, hey, look what I did. You guys picked on me. Well, when I walked in to that hall with 350 students, first of all, the entire hall froze because they never expected me to come. And it was a Cinderella story from that moment on. The girls just embraced me, and they used to pick on me and beat me up too. And they just hung around my table all night long. They wanted to know all the stories of Hollywood and all my experiences. And then the guys came by, and then this kid from across the hall, this kid, he's, older now, 28 years old, and he shouts my name from across the hall. Everybody stopped because they had no idea what he was going to do. Was he going to pick on me, antagonize me? He ran up to me, hugged me, embraced me, and wouldn't let me go. And the embrace I felt was, I'm so sorry. The words were never spoken, but the feeling was, I'm so sorry. And I couldn't let him go. Well, he sat by me almost the entire evening, bringing over all the other jocks who used to pick on me. Oh, man, you got to listen to Vinny. He's so funny. Holy cow, you got to listen to his stories. This guy is great. And so he became really close to me after that. But I knew something was wrong with his life because he was the guy, the only one who rented a Porsche to come to the reunion to impress everybody. And anytime you said, hey, how are you doing? The entire subject was about him and how fabulous he was doing at work, so successful, married his childhood sweetheart, had 3 children, beautiful condo in Connecticut, the expensive part of Connecticut. It was always bragging, 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 very narcissistic seemingly. But all I kept hearing was BS, BS, BS. And I don't know why I was hearing that at the time. So after a weekend of spending time with him, my wife and I, he invited us over his condo for the weekend. His wife and the kids were gone. They went away, he said, right? And he's talking to me. And of course, it was all about him still. The entire weekend, we're driving home and I'm crying. I am literally crying. And my wife is like, what is wrong? I said, my heart is breaking because I know his life is falling apart. And I don't know how to help him. And she's like, what are you talking about? He's married. He's got 3 kids. He's got this incredible job in Manhattan. He's got this gorgeous condo. We're renting a home that we don't even own. And he's doing great. I'm like, no, you don't understand. He's not doing great. He's not. I know something. And so I cried out to God, God, please, listen, this is the first time I am begging you. You've got to give me the ability. You've got to give me the tools. You've got to give me something to be able to help this kid with, this guy with. I love him dearly, but I'm feeling his heart and I know it's breaking. I want to be able to help him and people like him. I never, during the entire time I was tormented, now I was an altar boy and I was very close to the church, but I used to argue with the priest at 13 years old that they were teaching God and Jesus wrong. That used to earn me one of my biggest beatings, several biggest beatings, because if the priest talked to my parents about, we had a great discussion with Vince, and that I argued with them, Mom thought that I was condemning them to hell, so I used to get beat for being a heathen. Okay? But so that was it. But I never prayed to God to help me while I was being tormented by anybody. But for him, I did. It was, I would say, my first act of selflessness to ask for that. And within a week, Steven Spielberg and Cecil B. DeMille combined could not create an epic movie or paranormal movie the way these things happened in my life from that week on.
Wow.
It was within a 3-month period. It was thing after thing. I'm talking psychics coming to my house, seeing spirits telling me that the soul of Jesus is around me, that I'm not going to be a performer. I'm going to be a spiritual teacher in 7 years. All of a sudden, I'm listening and hearing people's minds and what they're thinking and their past and their future. And then all of a sudden, I start seeing dead people myself, and all at once, floodgate of information coming through my head. I start trancing, voices coming out of my mouth, all of this. Thank goodness my wife had been with me since I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
She knew I didn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But she also believed in me, but she was scared.
Yeah.
She went to her mother. She was telling her family, this is going on with me. I don't know what to do. And thank goodness, even my mother-in-law said, well, if he's not saying anything that's negative or bad, see what happens. And then it just kept growing and growing. And then we kept getting directed to people who knew of this stuff. And that's how it evolved to who I am today. It just got bigger and bigger, but it was because of that guy. My enemy became the greatest catalyst for the greatest gifts and blessings I have today. So you never know who you're dealing with out there and why they're in your lives.
Oh, that is such a beautiful story. That's so different than other people that I've heard who have had spiritual awakenings, because
Yeah.
many times it's through an NDE or it's through an illness or abuse also. But that is really, I love how the story and your spiritual unfolding began with a hug.
Yeah,
That to
yeah.
me is, I have chills. I have
Now,
chills right
you
now.
know what's funny? If you talk with him, and his name is Dennis, he's given me permission to always use his name so that you know who he is. And by the way, just so that everybody
Yeah.
knows, Dennis, I did get all this awareness. I went right back to him. I did help him. He is now a spiritual teacher himself. He's my
Oh,
greatest fan. He sends people to me all the time, talks about me, talks about this story. So it's an amazing transformation that he went through too. But he swears that I said to him in that embrace, and I don't remember it, it must have been another voice that said, I'm going to heal you.
oh.
And I didn't know, because at that point, before he even said anything to me, I didn't know at that point anything was going on. But he said, you said that to me. I'm going to heal you. And I will always remember that, because I had no idea what you were talking about, but something told me to always listen to you.
Oh, what a beautiful place to end this podcast, because although we may not all experience a spiritual awakening in the arms of a hug, we all have the ability to give a hug to someone, whether it is virtually or in person. The ability to make a difference in someone's life by saying, I see you, I hear you, I love you, I appreciate you. That could be our own spiritual awakening. And to me, all I can see right now is a vision of hugging. And I want to leave everybody with that to help them ignite their sparks. And Vincent, do you have one other thing you might want to share out with all of the listeners?
I
Because
do, actually, and
oh,
it's based on what you just said. Everybody can, I'm not correcting you, I'm adding to you. Everybody actually can experience their spark with a hug when the hug starts with hugging yourself. Because I promise you, when you wrap your arms and your mind around you and understand and start to accept that you are magnificent and a divine being, that spark will immediately ignite, and you'll start loading on logs to get the fire going so that you keep that flame and spark going. But it does and can start with a hug, but for yourself first.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Vincent, this was such a wonderful opportunity to hear your words. And where can people find you?
All they have to do is go to my website at vincentgenna.com, and that's with a Genna. And there's even a link there to take them directly to my book, or they can go to Amazon.com and get it there. But you can communicate with me, set up an appointment with me, see my different events, sign up for my email list, which I don't send out a lot of emails because I don't like inundating people with emails. But that's one of the best ways to be in touch with me. That'll also direct you to all my social media platforms. Thank you for letting me share that.
Of course. And I'll put that in my show notes as well on YouTube and on the podcast. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I want everybody listening right now to take your arms and wrap them around yourselves and give yourself a big hug, because you deserve and you appreciate it. And
Love it.
really go out and ignite some sparks today with your own spark. And as I always say, shine on.